Hey everyone, this is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Happy Monday, everybody. Today we're going to take a look at all of the astrological transits for the week ahead. There are a number of them we're going to look at today. And as I do that, I'm also going to be spending a little bit of extra time on the Mercury-Jupiter trine that is coming through today. I want to make sure that I devote a little extra time to that transit since it's actually occurring today on Monday. I'll go through all the transits for the week and then circle back around to Mercury-Jupiter at the end. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about the presence of Venus into Aries. I'll spend a touch more time on that one and touch on how that's going to impact the cardinal signs this week, because that is a significant transit that will include an upcoming retrograde from Venus in Aries. And the cardinal signs are going to get that moving into one of your angular houses this week. So I'll talk a little bit about that for those four signs and which houses are going to be activated. That'll be one of the horoscopic features that I focus on today as well. So also, I have to tell you all that I am very excited to welcome another guest onto the show. You may remember last week, my daughter's really, my older daughter really wanted to come to work with me. So she asked if Lovey could come to work with me. Well, my younger daughter, Summer, saw that episode with Lovey, got very excited. Also, maybe a touch jealous, maybe, and asked if Bunny, her Stuffy, her beloved Stuffy, could come on as well. So fair is fair. We have one more cameo to add to the Take Your Kid to School theme of the that I've been working with early this year. And I deeply appreciate all of you for listening to these guest astrologers come on, because it's a little break from the routine. But as a dad and as someone who is, raising my kids with astrology, I deeply appreciate how receptive and open you were to Lovey appearing. And Bunny's going to appear today and add a few thoughts in and maybe ask a few questions too. So anyway, that is our agenda for today. Before we get into it, remember to like and subscribe. You can find the transcript of any of these daily talks, including today's, on the website, nightlightastrology.com. I want to take you over there because there's a few things coming up that I think you'll enjoy. Go to the events page, click on live talks, and you will see that on February 20th, I'm giving a talk on Venus retrogrades. It's called Venus Through the Fire, Unlocking the Mysteries and Magic of Venus Retrogrades. You will find that talk. The register link is there under the live talks page. If you can't make it live, you get the recording. And then you'll see the webinars for March and April are posted as well. Hope to see some of you there. It's going to be a really good talk for February to prep us for the Venus retrograde. I'll be saying a little bit more about Venus in Aries today as well, because we are about to get a whirlwind of astrological transits appearing in the sign of Aries, especially in the month of March. I'll say a little bit about that in a minute. Anyhow, so with that intro done now, let's turn our attention to the real-time clock. And I'm going to welcome Bunny onto the show. So this is Bunny. You can see, I'll show you. This is Bunny. And Bunny is Summer's Lovey that she has had since she was very little, her Stuffy, I should say. And so Bunny is going to sit here, and Bunny's also quiet, like she doesn't say a whole lot, but she's very smart when it comes to astrology. She knows a lot, and she has some questions I think she's probably going to ask, because she loves to ask questions about astrology. And she also will have some insights because she's starting to form some of her own ideas, which is really cool. And I'm so happy to have Bunny here today. And also, I'm so thankful for all of you for being open-minded to letting my kids have a little connection to what I do. So, all right, now let us, and fair is fair. Look, if one Stuffy's coming on and the other one's left out, how fair would that be, right? So, okay. Now, let's take a look at the astrology for the week ahead. I'm going to go over it first in order. Yeah, they can see you. They know you're here. Yep. They can. Yeah, the camera's right there, but you're in it because it's kind of widescreen. Yes, they can see you. Well, I would put you in my shirt, but it's too hard. Lovey was a little smaller. You're so big. You want me to try? Okay, I can try. Okay, let's see. See if I can get you in there. I don't know. It's kind of tough. Okay. No, you're right. You can, I guess you can kind of make it. Oh, there you are. Yeah, now you can talk right into my ear too. This works. All right, let's take a look. So we start the week off on February 3rd, and we are looking at a trine from Mercury to Jupiter to start the week. Now, like I said, I'm going to circle around to this one at the end. Because it is a transit of the day, I'm going to spend a little bit of extra time with it after I go through all the other transits for the week, since this is our transit of the day. Mercury's trine to Jupiter is Aries, and it's happening as Jupiter is stationing and turning direct. And so this is a really a consequential trine between these two planets. It comes right after the Sun trine Jupiter last week. So, a nice little Aries connection here that could signal a lot of nice things for us. I'm going to come back to that. So that's the first transit of the week that's happening today, Monday. Tomorrow, the big shift that's happening is Venus into Aries. Now, on the one hand, this change of dignity for Venus could be a little problematic. Here is Venus moving into Aries because now she's in the sign of her detriment. All that means is that she's in Mars's sign, and Mars is in some ways polar opposite to Venus. And so Venus has to express herself in a temple environment of the zodiac that is sort of polar opposite to her own nature. That can lead to some interesting compromises and some interesting level of synthesis. And we'll talk about that at length tomorrow, because we're going to be previewing Venus's upcoming retrograde. We've got a Mercury retrograde that's coming up in Aries. We have a solar eclipse that'll be in Aries, and we have Neptune entering Aries all in the month of March. So we're going to spend a little bit more time on that one tomorrow as the week goes on. But what I want to say initially about Venus into Aries is that Venus into Aries is on the positive level of Venus into Aries. We have, some of the most constructive expressions, in other words, would be that we have the goddess now in the sign of the warrior. And so all feminine warrior archetypes are often like strongly expressed when Venus enters Aries. So you have women who are strong, fierce, independent, bold, pioneering, those kinds of images of the feminine in healthy relation with its masculinity, and it doesn't even have to be literal gender, right? You can think about it as yang, or you can think about it as a kind of centrifugal force, that Venus becomes forceful, more assertive, more aggressive. She becomes more fiery, animate. She is capable of advocating for things that she believes are desirable or beautiful. What's that? Bunny. Yes, very good point. Bunny's making a very good point here, which is that my younger daughter, Summer, started doing karate a couple of years ago. And when she started doing karate, one of the questions that she had, she was really concerned about it, which was that, can girls do karate? I remember we had this conversation, and I remember we told Summer, and Bunny, you probably remember this too. We said, girls can do anything that anything that they want to do. If a girl likes sports, or she likes things that look like only boys can do it, that's totally fine. She can do it too. And it turns out that Summer's very good at karate. And in fact, when they had a little bit of sparring the other day, she was really taking this little boy to task. I'll tell you that. She was kicking some serious butt. But yeah, Summer's interest in karate, very Venus in Aries. In fact, what's interesting is that Venus is in Mars's sign, and Summer has Mars in her first house, which means that she's very athletic and she likes that kind of stuff a lot. So yeah, Venus in Aries. It's also interesting, Bunny, is that Ashley, that's my wife, that would be Bunny's mommy and Summer's mommy, was born with Venus in Aries. And one of the things that's funny about that is that she worked with a lot of women in entrepreneurial settings where she helped set up new businesses until she finally started her own business. So one of the things that Venus in Aries is really good at is giving women the strength and incentive and power to do what they want to do, to be strong and maybe to start their own business or to be very athletic, things like that. So Venus in Aries can be wonderful for those things. And I'm glad that you brought that up, Bunny. That was a good association. So the other thing that Venus and Aries can bring up on the shadow side, aside from all of those kind of nice way of the feminine warrior motifs that I really like for Venus and Aries can struggle with things like being hyper aggressive or independent or belligerent or selfish or fiery and impulsive and impatient at the cost of harmony, peace, beauty, likability. And that's the tension, right? How do we let Venus do Mars things while retaining something of the harmonizing nature of Venus? That's where the tension occurs. And, there's a way in which it's like there's I like to use the analogy of a dimmer switch. So a good way of thinking about it in in karate, for example, when Summer does her karate, in the context of sparring, you bring out all of that aggressive energy and you fight and you show your moves and you defend and you do all of that. But then when it's over, you bow politely to the other person. So there's also an element of harmony that has to be a part of it. Because if you just ran around the world hitting and kicking people all the time, right, that wouldn't be very good. And in karate, the teachers say that it's for self-defense, which means that you tap into those energies only when you really need to. And that's something like what Venus in Aries is always, that's the tension that we're always working with when Venus is in Aries. We might need to do things that are a little bit uncomfortable, assert ourselves more than we are used to, be pioneering, brave, courageous, bold, like that. But then do we have the ability to also step back and know when we're being too much or too aggressive, or when it's time to sort of bow and be peaceful? So that tension becomes more pronounced when Venus is in Aries, trying to hold those two things at the same time. So very nice connections here. Thank you, Bunny, for that, really. Okay, so let's move on now. The same day, Jupiter is turning direct. We talked a little bit about Jupiter turning direct last week. That is another really good question. Bunny's asking if planets actually move backward in the sky when you say a planet is retrograde, and then when it goes direct, does that mean that planets sometimes really move backward in the sky? Well, from our perspective, Bunny, they really do look like they're moving backward. And from our perspective, we take that meaning symbolically, but actually out in space, they never stop moving in the same direction. It's just because of our perspective on Earth that it's kind of like an optical illusion where something looks like something, but it's actually something else. So yeah, from our perspective, it looks like they're moving backward. They're actually not moving backwards, but because of how the Earth is moving and the rotation of the Earth on its axis and the way we're traveling through space, it looks from our perspective like they're traveling backward. So they're not really, but it has a lot of symbolic value, that backward movement in astrology. And so when it turns direct, there's also a symbolic meaning to that. And the symbolic meaning of Jupiter turning direct is usually that a phase of revision, reflection, refinement, delays, setbacks, reversals is now concluding, and we will start moving with forward motion again. Symbolically speaking, that might mean that delays are over, setbacks are over, integration has occurred, and we're ready to start making progress again. A refinement or a period of reflection now leads to integration, and there's a feeling of starting to gain traction with something again. The other things that can happen with Jupiter turning direct are just an expression of wisdom, insight, and understanding that's been gained since the planet turned retrograde. So let's look back at when this planet turned retrograde, because that will give us a little sense of where we've been since this occurred. So if we go back to Libra season, when the sun trined Jupiter in the sign of Libra, right around that time in October, about October 10th, Jupiter turned retrograde. So if you stretch it out from October to right about now, that is the period of time where this reflection, revision, refinement has been taking place. That's been taking place in the whole sign house of Gemini in your chart, which we looked at last week. So this is a big day this week, because they're really, for many of us who pay attention and track the planets, you'll start to feel like you're making progress again, which is there's really nothing better than feeling like you're starting to, after maybe a period of feeling a little stuck or like there's been delays or setbacks or revision, it's nice to feel like you're moving ahead again. So that takes place tomorrow, and that's a big transit. Very good question Lovey had about asking if planets really move backward or not. They don't really move backward, but again, isn't it cool that our perspective of what the heavens look like from a symbolic level is very important? Okay, let's go to February 7th. So on February 7th, Venus is going to sextile Pluto. This is a little transit, not the biggest deal in the world, but Venus sextiles to Pluto bring together the realm of beauty and relationships, love, and our connections, our romantic connections with other people, or our friendships, or even things like relationships with women or sisters, very all Venusian topics, into contact with Pluto, the ruler of the underworld. Sometimes that means that we have to look at things that are a little bit more difficult or maybe a little darker within relationships. And yet that can be very healing. And in a sextile might be a very positive thing. There might be a little bit, you might have an easier time resolving conflicts or looking at things you don't really want to look at. For example, our girls, like, they get into fights about going into each other's bedrooms. I don't want you in my bedroom. Get out of my bedroom, like that. And sometimes we have to sit down and talk about those things. And it's not always easy, and feelings can get hurt. And sometimes it's just like, I don't want to look at this. I don't want to do this. But when we take a little bit of time to care for each other and look at the conflicts that we have, then all of a sudden we love each other more, and we learn how to deal with difficulties that exist in relationships. Because all relationships have some things where, some periods where you may not get along, but to care for those things and to look at those things, care for that Venus Pluto kind of thing. And Bunny is bringing this up in my ear right now, this is so cool. So both of our girls like to they have this clay, and they like to make artwork out of the clay. Well, Venus loves to make artwork. Venus loves to do things that are creative and performative. It could be dance, it could be painting. Any kind of artwork, when it gets in contact with Pluto, is a little bit darker or weirder or stranger. But we need to sometimes creatively get in touch with things that are a little strange or weird or dark. So, for example, Bunny is reminding me of the fact with Venus Pluto that our girls, and Summer is really good at this too, they take clay and they make weird little things. For example, there is a character that tells bedtime stories whose name is Earl, and he is a little clay piece of poop with an eyeball. And they absolutely, Summer especially, she will giggle and laugh so hard when Earl comes out, the one-eyed poop clay ball. And then they started making all sorts of other weird, strange, gross stuff. We have a clay piece of earwax that has a googly eyeball. We have a teardrop. It's kind of a sad character that comes along. And we have a booger. So we have booger, earwax, poop, and teardrop in our little clan of storytelling weird, gross things. Now, that may seem like really weird, but the thing is that Venus and Pluto together sometimes like to laugh or take joy in things that are weird or gross or strange or dark or just a little subversive somehow. Subversive means sort of like it's edgy. It makes you feel a little like, ooh, should I be laughing at this? Or is it okay to make art like this? And sometimes it is. So Venus, Pluto, Lovey, very good point, is connected to things like that artwork that the girls make. Venus, Pluto contact, because it's harmonious, can mean that the meeting of these darker energies is constructive. Now, a shadow of this combination, because sextiles are of the nature of Venus and like to bring things together, could be about, for example, thinking to yourself, I want to be friends with that person because they're powerful and they'll get me something, even if maybe there's something about this that's not so nice. For example, I want to be friends with the popular kids, or I want to be friends with the ones that everyone likes because I want to be really liked. That can be a Venus-Pluto dynamic where the choices you make in relationships are based on subtle things that you want or desire that maybe aren't so healthy or good. So Venus-Pluto has to be careful of unseen or hidden motivations and power dynamics in relationships, and power trips or power plays that are subtle and may appear as though they're good or harmonious. Like you could go up to a friend at school and say, hey, I want to be your best friend because, I just really like you. But secretly you're thinking, I don't even know if I like them, but I know that everyone else likes them, so I should try to be friends with them, right? Something like that you have to be a little bit careful of with Venus and Pluto. All right, so a good transit to look at. Now, on the 9th, we go 2 days forward, and we have a Mercury cazimi. So Mercury cazimis are the exact conjunctions of Mercury and the Sun, placing Mercury at the heart of the Sun. This is a temporarily empowered position for Mercury. So one of the things that happens is you will find that some of the most interesting messages, forms of communication, ideas, epiphanies, realizations, insights will come about during this time. You may also find that someone is being empowered or someone is being given a special degree of authority or privilege. Sometimes Mercury at the heart of the sun is talked about as seated on the throne of the king or queen and being given the seal of the king or queen, like an ambassador who can go to another country and make decisions on behalf of the ruler. So Mercury becomes especially empowered on this day, and it's really good for solving problems or for understanding something. Yes, Bunny's making the very good point that when Summer has been learning to read, she's learning to put words together and read words. And there's this moment of excitement that you can see on her face when she's reading, and she starts going, "Oh my gosh, I can read these words." There's a feeling of like, I'm getting smarter. I'm understanding something better. The lights turning on in my head and I can start to do something that I couldn't do before. Any kind of insight or aha moment while you're learning is related to the symbolism of Mercury and Venus. So maybe there'll be some exciting learning experiences this week. What do you think about that, Bunny? Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah. And the other thing Bunny is mentioning is how good it feels to read for other people and they can see that you're doing it. They can see, oh my gosh, she's reading. And to everyone gets excited about it when you read. And that is a very Mercury Sun-like moment because you start feeling like other people celebrating the fact that I'm learning and growing makes me feel good about myself. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's a good one, Bunny. Okay, finally, so Mercury, watch for an empowered moment around mind, speech, communication. Watch for the messenger archetype being sort of brilliantly infused with light and power, and that would be again on Sunday. And then on Sunday, we also have Mars trine to Saturn, the final transit that I'm going to talk about, and then we'll circle back around to Mercury trine Jupiter for today. So we have here we go. Where am I? Okay, here's Mars in Cancer retrograding into the trine with Saturn. That's happening Sunday at the very end of the week. And trines between Mars and Saturn are very good when it comes to combining the qualities of maturity, discipline, wisdom, time, age, sort of that veteran experience of Saturn. Time, age, wisdom, experience, maturity, stick-to-itiveness, discipline, and then Mars, which is effort and action. And when you put them together in a trine, they can act very constructively to accomplish things that are hard or to focus or concentrate and get actions done that require patient, careful, thoughtful maturity. So the best combination of these two planets is going to be about doing hard things patiently, wisely, effectively. And in water signs, this means with greater emotional maturity as well. Yes, that is exactly right. Bunny is mentioning that Summer lately has been doing a really good job, amazing actually, of sometimes when it's time to say sorry for something, like if she did something that what she shouldn't have done, or maybe said something that hurt someone's feelings, I've really been noticing she's been stopping and going, "I'm sorry." And that is so hard to do. It's so hard to do, but it's such a good thing that we all have to learn how to do. That's a very Mars Saturn thing, to do something difficult. Emotionally, it's hard. It requires us to grow up a little bit to do something hard like that because we have our own feelings too. And also a lot of the times when we do something wrong, we didn't really mean to do it, or we didn't do it because we're a bad person. And so it feels like, oh, I shouldn't have to apologize. I'm not a bad person. And apologizing usually isn't about being a bad person or a good person. It's just something that's nice to do when someone else gets hurt. We say, you know what? It's okay. I know I'm not a bad person, but I did something that maybe hurt someone and I didn't mean to. So I can say I'm sorry. Mars trines with Saturn here in retrogradation as well, maybe asking us to revisit something that's a little difficult, that requires a greater depth emotionally. It's not easy to look at some things from our past or from within our families, but to do so with a maturity and a thoughtfulness and a resolution to do the right thing. This is the best of Mars trine to Saturn, I think, in these water signs. However, the other thing that will come up is the difficulties of having to look at hard things. It's just that simple. Mars trine Saturn will sometimes make us feel stuck or like we're regressing into an old pattern. And we just really don't want to go back and have to do something that we've done in the past or fall into an old pattern that we feel like we should have graduated from already. And yet sometimes that retrograde pull is saying we need to keep looking at something. We need to take a deeper look and even if it's frustrating or makes us feel emotionally bogged down, there's something is calling for our attention. And with the trine there, there's a promise that if we take the time to look at this, this may actually be beneficial. The hard, difficult thing here, the sticky thing, might be a good thing. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Bunny is pointing out that she's noticed that every year our girls are learning how to play together and be sisters together in better ways. And it's the same thing. You know what, Bunny? It's the same thing in marriage. Mommy and daddy have to learn how to get along in better ways every year. That's a part of a relationship. You're always just in a process of loving each other and learning how to handle the difficult things that come up because we're all just human. Okay, well, this has been fun. Let's circle back around now, first to Venus into Aries, where I want to say that the first thing that is really apparent with this, let me just go forward here a little bit, is that with Venus entering Aries and these major astrological transits coming up in the sign of Aries, the cardinal signs are about to get major activation. So let's visit that really quickly. If you are an Aries rising, you are about to get a complete downpour of astrological energy this month, but even more so next month in the first house, which is identity, health, the initiation of new things, a first house topic. So body, identity, health, psychology, questions about who you are, how you feel in your body, how you physically appear in the world, your psychological characteristics and self-development become really important topics as soon as Venus enters. Now, if we continue forward around the wheel, the other cardinal signs, let's go to Cancer next. You're about to get a major downpour of astrological energy, starting with Venus and Aries, and then proceeding all the way through the month of March in the career house, in the place where you intersect with the social public world through your job or through the public, the way in which you engage with the public, social, sort of civic dimension of life. This is the career house, but it's also where you engage with the world. There's a lot of attention coming for Cancers on that particular area. Now we go forward to Libras, this huge torrent of astrological energy, Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde, solar eclipse in Aries, Neptune entering Aries, all February, March especially. That's going to happen in the house of love and relationships. So Libras are about to go through such a transformational period with respect to interpersonal relationships. And then finally, if we go to Capricorns, as Venus enters Aries this week, you're going to start getting a preview of all of those major astrological transits coming in the month of March in the sign of Aries in the fourth house: home, family, property, ancestry, the past, parents, living environment. Such a major focus coming in for Capricorns around that period, around that area right now. So, yeah, that's where the focus is, and you're going to see that. For all of the cardinal signs, as soon as Venus enters Aries this week, you are starting to get a preview in one of the four major areas of life of this, again, huge wave of astrological energy that's coming, especially in the month of March. So just a little preview there, try to throw something in for all signs. Now let's close with a little bit of Mercury's trine to Jupiter. And so Bunny's asking about summer's horoscope. So summer is an Aquarius, not getting it in one of the cardinal houses, so I'm not looking at it so much. But what is interesting is that cazimi for this week that I was talking about, where you could really learn something or have some kind of really unique insights or ideas, that's happening in summer's first house as an Aquarius, which means that there could be some really important personal moments for summer this week and for all Aquarians, right? So I'll throw that in because I know that Summer will want to hear a little something about her own horoscope. So, all right, well, let's talk about Mercury's trine to Jupiter because that's happening today. I mentioned this earlier, but let me go back this up. So we come into the beginning of the week. Here we are. Mercury's trine to Jupiter, airy and communicative. So we're seeing this come through today, and the because Jupiter is changing directions, I like to think about this as an idea or an insight or a moment of communication or dialogue in your life that is very clearly connected to a shift or a turning point that Jupiter is bringing this week with its turn direct. I mean, this is happening as Jupiter is turning directions. And when Mercury and Jupiter come together harmoniously, it is as though the relationship between the parts and the whole are working together. The analytical mind and the sort of holistic mind are working together. They're in harmony. So this usually means that our ability to integrate and understand complex things and make wholes out of them is really special. For example, Mercury-Jupiter trines, when you're learning astrology, often occur when you start putting various things together, and all of a sudden you start seeing a bigger picture. Another example of this, Bunny is reminding me, is when we put a puzzle together. So as a family, we like to put puzzles out on our kitchen table, and we all sort of work on it throughout the week. Well, people will just kind of go over and spend a little time. Summer and I were finishing a puzzle the other night that had cats in it. And while we were finishing the picture of the cats in the puzzle, we got closer and closer to the end. And whereas early on, it was painstaking to find individual pieces that fit together. We put the border together first, and then we were sort of gradual. And then the closer you get to the end, all of a sudden, there's a piece, there's a piece, there's a piece, there's a piece. All of the pieces started coming together, and it was much easier and it went much faster to put the pieces together and to make the whole picture. That's like Mercury and Jupiter. When Mercury and Jupiter get together, you'll often, especially in a trine, you will often find that little things, details, organizational bits and pieces of things are starting to come together. In language, it's like learning to form complete sentences. Or at school for summer, Bunny is mentioning that it could very well be that she's learning to write a full sentence and capitalize the first letter and put a period at the end, right? All of the little elements of grammar and punctuation are coming together, and all of a sudden you go, oh my God, I did it. I did a whole sentence. So Mercury-Jupiter is great for being able to assemble things and put things together and give us a sense of communicative, organizational, or mental momentum, which means we feel like we're starting to move, things are starting to go someplace. We can start to see that big picture forming. The other thing that's really great is just constructive communication, ease or flow in communicating with other people, or even just a sense of building rapport and finding that you're getting good news, or people are providing you with various resources. Often those resources are in the form of technology or ideas. There can be a kind of mental and intellectual dimension because air is related to the mind. Bunny's asking a really good question, and we'll end with this question for the day. She's saying, I don't understand why air is related to the mind. Isn't air what we breathe? Yeah, so we breathe air. But what's really interesting is that in astrology, things like fire or water or air or earth can also represent other things. That's called symbolic. So air, there's the physical air, but then we also think about kind of like, imagine that all of the thoughts moving around in your head, Bunny, are like clouds. And they come and they go, and you can see shapes in them. And all of the thoughts moving through our head are sort of like invisible air currents, because it's hard to think of touching the air, and it's hard to think of touching your thoughts. So we think about air like we think about thoughts. Does that make sense? Okay, good. See, not that hard. It's just about learning how to think about things symbolically. Well, okay, Bunny, I'm going to take you out of my shirt because you're a little itchy. All right. Hey, thank you, everybody. I really deeply appreciate this. You don't know how much it means to my kids to have just a small point of access to me and what I do every day here. when Lovey came on, you just have no idea what a big deal that was in our house. So thank you, all of you, for allowing me to have a little take my kids to work videos this month. I really appreciate it. Maybe at some point down the line they'll come back, but we filled that cup for now. So I really do appreciate it. And hopefully this also gives you some ideas about how you can start talking to your kids, if you have them, about astrology, because it's really not about making things more kid-like as much as it is conveying the same things in ways that kids can find accessible. That's what I've found in starting to teach my kids about astrology anyway. It's just about talking to them, not talking down to them, but talking with them on bringing in examples that are relatable. It's that relatability. And because astrology is almost as immediately intuitive to kids as the lessons of fairy tales are, in my experience, that it's like instant and intuitive. We just have to make sure that we're finding things that are relatable for kids to make sense of the symbols by. So anyway, maybe some inspiration down the road to do more of this kind of content for kids. I would love to eventually find a way of having a series of lessons that are kid friendly. I've thought about how much I appreciated Jim Henson and the Muppets, Mr. Rogers, things like that when I was a kid, that did such an artistic, interesting job of accessing my imagination and also helping me learn. And learn things that are not just intellectual, but that are of moral, spiritual value as well. So anyway, hope you're having a great start to your week. We'll be looking at a bunch of good stuff as the week goes on, and I look forward to that soon. Bye, everyone.